God is good. God is good. And yeah, mama, what's up? Y'all know how I feel about my mother and my father's here. Your pops, where you at? My dad came in from Ghana. He flew in from Ghana to be here. My brother, my sister's here. My family. I want to thank Warner Brothers. I want to thank Mike and Pam for believing in this dream, this vision of Ryan.
Is the Almighty truly looking out for us? That is the holy word from the pulpit. It is the same gospel Steve Harvey preaches every sunrise while hawking another manual on how to secure a husband. But let me pose a question that is currently incinerating the silk drapes of Tinseltown. What happens when the wholesome family man persona is constructed upon a sewer of depravity? March 15, 2026. Michael B. Jordan is clutching the gold on that Oscar stage for sinners. However, his stare suggests he has witnessed the very architectural plans of perdition and narrowly escaped with his soul. He credits his mother. He credits his father who arrived from Ghana. But there is an agonizing, deafening void where the Harvey name once lived. You assume it is a standard split. You assume he is simply dodging commitment. Stay awake. We are not discussing a typical Hollywood divorce anymore. We are analyzing a transaction, a mechanism where Steve Harvey allegedly bartered access to his own spouse Marjorie and his daughter Lori to the now imprisoned kingpin Sean Diddy Combs in exchange for professional dominance. We are uncovering the whisper that has the industry shivering in their luxury footwear. A orchestrated high-stakes encounter involving the Harvey women and the mogul currently rotting in a Brooklyn cell awaiting federal racketeering prosecution. Is Michael B. Jordan's quietude a sign of peace? Or is it the solitary dam preventing a deluge that will incinerate the family feud dynasty forever? Diddy is caged. Steve's union is reportedly a hollow shell. And Lori is supposedly scratching at Jordan's door, frantic to drag the only man with a pulse back into the abyss. Pour your caffeine and bolt the entrances because the family man facade is being shredded before the global gaze. As we investigate this chaos further, it becomes undeniable that in Hollywood, nothing is ever truly what the lens portrays. Michael B. Jordan's icy demeanor and his cryptic reticence are no accidental occurrences. The reality remains that when Jordan initiated his romance with Lori Harvey in November 2020, the public viewed them as the industry's ultimate power couple. But behind that polished veneer sat a level of rot that Michael himself had not originally foreseen. Industry veterans and fresh documents now indicate that Michael was recruited into this inner circle for a highly strategic objective. We must recognize that Steve Harvey's entire enterprise is built on ethics and patriarchal values. But under the mask of this brand, a syndicate was allegedly functioning that connects directly to Puffy Diddy, also identified as Sean Combs. Diddy's reputation isn't just haunting the charts anymore. It is due to the catastrophic federal indictments he is battling in a New York dungeon. But the truly volcanic revelation is what Michael B. Jordan unmasked while occupying a seat at the Harvey holiday banquet. Witnesses claim that Michael swiftly understood that the bond between Lori Harvey, her mother Marjorie Harvey, and Diddy was not remotely corporate or social. We are discussing the alleged pact that fractured Michael's reality. Picture a man who guards his integrity and legacy above all else, discovering that his significant other and her mother were trapped in illicit contracts with a predatory mogul who functions as a cultural gatekeeper. This was not merely a heartbreak. It was a formal summons to join a syndicate. Steve Harvey is frequently depicted as someone who will sacrifice any boundary to preserve his status and authority. And the claim here is that he traded access to the women in his lineage to titans like Diddy to cement his own relevance. When Michael B. Jordan grasped the gravity of this arrangement, he chose to vanish without a sound. But withdrawing was not that effortless. When reports of their separation emerged in June 2022, the press was fed a narrative that Lori was allergic to settling down. But the reality is that Michael refused to further shoulder the weight of that filth. Now, in 2026, with an Academy Award in hand, Michael B. Jordan wields a level of moral leverage that few others in this business possess, and the Harvey clan is in a state of total hysteria. Steve Harvey's third union with Marjorie is reportedly disintegrating. And the catalyst is those identical ancient skeletons crawling out of the closet. There have been disclosures regarding Marjorie's dark history previously, including her first spouse's felonious past. But her and Lori's identities being chained to Diddy is acting as the final spike in the coffin for this family's honor. The quietness Michael has preserved throughout this era has evolved into his most surgical weapon. He has not uttered Lori's name in press junkets, nor has he initiated an offensive against Steve Harvey, but his cold shoulder is eroding Steve every single day. Steve is paralyzed that if Michael narrates the truth, his literary works, his sermons, and his entire broadcasting world will collapse in a heartbeat. The saga does not terminate there because Diddy is now shackled and is no longer capable of shielding anyone. The terror that Hollywood once felt for Diddy's name has vanished. And this is the moment when former associates and muzzled spectators are starting to testify. Claims of Lori Harvey attempting to lure Michael B. Jordan back are essentially a frantic SOS to pull him back into a non-disclosure agreement, or at the very least purchase his eternal silence. But Michael is no longer the target he once was. He is a planetary superstar who has no use for the Harvey brand. The most appalling segment of this controversy is how a father allegedly utilized his kin as a shield to protect his industry standing. Steve Harvey always coached women on how to think like a man, but he apparently neglected to observe that when a man like Michael B. Jordan glimpses the horror behind the curtain, he never turns back. As the probe intensifies and the prosecution against Diddy hardens, the trap is closing around the Harvey residence. This is not mere hearsay. It is the unification of evidence that has been adrift for decades. Back in 2019, when Lori and Diddy were filmed together in Italy and Mexico, fans assumed it was a fleeting romance, but it is now surfacing that it was the prologue of a much deadlier game. Michael B. Jordan wandered into the center of this trap, and when he lifted the mask, all he discovered was betrayal and avarice. Now that even Steve Harvey's digital director is reportedly quitting and his own staff are leaking information, it is obvious that a family feud has erupted inside his own palace. Period. Michael's quiet has created a frequency that is audible to everyone cognizant of Hollywood's dark underbelly. The public is waiting to witness if Diddy will fall solitary when his litigation begins in May 2027, or if he will pull Steve Harvey and his bloodline down with him. This is merely the prologue because once the dam breaks, no influence can halt the flood. Michael B. Jordan has established that sometimes saying absolutely nothing is the most deafening confession of all. The corruption of this network is so absolute that every participant is now living in total paranoia. No one is certain who will be the next to collapse. Behind Steve Harvey's trademark grin now lurks the terror of a man who realizes his darkest secret is no longer under lock and key. To sustain the force of this investigation, we must examine the cold, brutal logistics and the financial trail that the Harvey clan believed was buried under years of artificial PR. We are entering the secondary stage of this outing where the family man mask meets the federal prosecutor's evidence. The shift from Michael B. Jordan being the ideal son-in-law to becoming the lethal witness occurred almost instantly in June 2022. But to comprehend why, we must address the Sean Diddy Combs Harvey barter that reportedly occurred behind the fortified doors of estates in Holmby Hills and Star Island. When Michael entered the fold, he was not just courting a socialite. He was being woven into a commercial strategy. Witnesses close to the set of Creed 3 at the time observed a sharp change in Michael's energy. He was not just drained from production, he was haunted. He had reportedly learned that the opulent lifestyle Marjorie and Lori were parading was not just funded by Steve's family feud salary. It was being financed by a web of transactions involving the most powerful and now most shamed individual in the music business. Let us address the specific event that allegedly triggered the split. In the spring of 2022, right before the divorce, there was a clandestine gala. Not the variety you observe on Instagram with decadent meals and matching looks, but a high-level industry summit. It is whispered in the halls of power that Sean Diddy Combs made a remark to Michael that ruined everything. A remark that suggested Lori was not just Michael's partner, but a shared commodity of the elite group. The rumor is that Sean Diddy Combs referenced a night involving himself, Lori, and a third participant, an encounter that was not a secret to the Harvey parents. For Michael B. Jordan, a man who anchored his career on honor and the mission of being the next Denzel, this was not just a heartbreak. It was a realization that he was being utilized as the sanitized face for a very filthy enterprise. Steve Harvey's participation in this is perhaps the most sickening element. How does a man who instructs you to fix your spirit every morning permit his family to be linked to a monster like Sean Diddy Combs? The solution remains in the endurance of the brand. In 2020, Steve's influence was waning and the landscape was changing. Sean Diddy Combs represented a level of untouchable clout that Steve coveted. By permitting Lori to be the link between the Harvey name and the Combs empire, Steve was not just a parent. He was a manager negotiating a trade. He recognized that Sean Diddy Combs' reach in Hollywood could validate Michael B. Jordan's path and by extension keep the Harvey clan in the limelight for another era. But Steve miscalculated Michael's ethical boundaries. He assumed Michael would play the part. He assumed the Oscar, the prestige, and the Harvey beauty would be sufficient to purchase his loyalty. But then arrived the 2024 raids. When the federal agents stormed Sean Diddy Combs' estates, they were not just seeking hardware, they were seeking identities. And while Steve Harvey's name has not graced a formal charge yet, the public tribunal has already reached its verdict. Every time a new survivor speaks out against Diddy, the audience stares at Lori and Marjorie and asks, "What did you witness?" The heat is rising so fiercely that Steve reportedly suffered a collapse backstage at a recent filming. His union to Marjorie, which he has marketed as a divine intervention, is now being labeled by sources as a strategic pact to stop her from testifying against him during a racketeering investigation. Marjorie knows where the evidence is buried, or in this instance, where the recordings are stashed. The mental warfare Lori is currently waging with Michael B. Jordan is a masterclass in panic. Since his Oscar victory in 2026, she has reportedly been mailing praise that is actually a disguised plea for a meeting. She understands that as long as Michael remains quiet, there is a possibility the public will forget. But if he narrates, if he even validates a fraction of the syndicate he observed, the Harvey name becomes poisonous. No more studio contracts, no more daytime talk, no more empowerment tours. Steve Harvey would transform from the most reliable man in America to the most humiliated father in Hollywood history. Let us dissect the Diddy mechanism further. Sean Diddy Combs did not just host galas. He gathered leverage. He ensured that everyone who joined his inner circle was compromised in some fashion. If Marjorie and Lori were participating in the way the whispers imply, Sean Diddy Combs likely possesses the tapes. And if Sean Diddy Combs possesses the evidence, the federal authorities possess it too. This is the legitimate catalyst for Steve Harvey reportedly purging his staff and lashing out at his audience. He is not offended by the digital gossip. He is paralyzed by the truth. He is a 69-year-old man watching his entire legacy evaporate in real time. He spent decades coaching men on how to be kings and women on how to find royalty while allegedly functioning as a recruiter for a music mogul. The irony remains that Michael B. Jordan is now the king Steve always pretended to be. By picking silence, Michael has kept his pride. But he has also kept the Harveys on a short leash. Every time Michael appears in public, every time he secures another trophy, he reminds the world that he is the one who escaped. He is the one who refused the bait. He is the one who scrutinized the Sean Diddy Combs Harvey pact and picked his integrity over a chair at the table. And as the trial of the century nears in 2027, the public is starting to realize that the most lethal person in the room is not the one screaming. It is the one observing. Steve's second spouse, Mary Shackelford, was accurate all along. For years, she was branded as unstable and resentful. But her claims of Steve being a master deceiver and a charlatan are now being re-examined in the shadow of the Sean Diddy Combs tragedy. If Steve could delete Mary from his life and attempt to ruin her, what would he not do to keep the Marjorie Sean Diddy Combs link a secret? This is a man who thrives on dominance, but he has lost dominance over the one person he requires most. Michael B. Jordan. As we approach the final destruction, the fractures in the Harvey estate are becoming abysses. The encounter rumor is not just a tabloid hook. It is a sign of a culture of abuse that has haunted Black Hollywood for too long. Michael B. Jordan's Oscar is not just a win for performance. It is a win for endurance. He outlasted the mechanism. He outlasted the Harveys. And as the cage shuts on Sean Diddy Combs and Steve, Michael stands as the solitary man left with his dignity intact. The family feud is no longer a game show. It is a duel for the very spirit of a clan that sold itself for a drop of Sean Diddy Combs' power. And as the spotlight fades on Steve's career, the only riddle left is who will be the first to break under the federal heat. Will it be Marjorie? Will it be Lori? Or will Sean Diddy Combs from his dungeon in Brooklyn conclude that if he is descending, he is taking the family man with him? The record does not deceive. 2019, the tryst with Sean Diddy Combs. 2020, the bond with Michael B. Jordan. 2022, the collapse when Michael witnesses the truth. 2024, the capture of Sean Diddy Combs. 2026, the Oscar for Michael. The path is undeniable. Michael B. Jordan is rising while the Harveys are in a terminal dive. And as Lori reaches out one final time to snare him back, she is realizing that some men are not for sale, and some truths cannot be hidden forever. The silence is shattering, the evidence is bleeding, and the Harvey empire is about to become a horror story for the ages. The final destruction of the Harvey Diddy Jordan triangle is not just a celebrity split. It is the collapse of a decades-long PR campaign founded on the fantasy of perfection. To grasp the weight of what is occurring in 2026, we must look toward the massive shadow of May 2027, the date locked for Sean Diddy Combs' federal litigation. This is not just about Sean Diddy Combs anymore. This is about the names on the stand. Legal sources have whispered that the government is hunting for people who can narrate the lifestyle assistance that happened within Sean Diddy Combs' inner circle. If Michael B. Jordan is summoned, his silence, the very shield he has used to protect his sanity, becomes a legal crime. In a federal court, there are no non-disclosures. There are no fixers to rewrite the script. There is only the truth under oath. And that is precisely what keeps Steve Harvey vibrating with fear at night. The whisper of the encounter involving Marjorie, Lori, and Sean Diddy Combs is the radioactive center of this hurricane. But the impact goes much deeper into the gears of how the Harvey clan functions. Researchers have highlighted a haunting pattern in the Harvey home. A brutal quest for proximity to clout at any expense. For Marjorie Harvey, who emerged from a murky past to become the leader of a global firm, Sean Diddy Combs represented the ultimate pass to the elite black royalty of Hollywood. But what was the entrance fee? If the claims are valid that Steve Harvey permitted or even lobbied his family to join Sean Diddy Combs' freak-offs or private pacts, then Steve has not just collapsed as a parent. He has functioned as a high-level handler in a system of victimization. This is why the 2026 Oscar win for Michael B. Jordan was such a tectonic moment. It gifted Michael the unbeatable status. He no longer requires Hollywood's bouncers because he has become one. He is the crown that the Harveys surrendered, and his glory acts as a daily citation of their alleged moral rot. Let us examine the economic fallout. Steve Harvey's dynasty is worth hundreds of millions, largely fueled by his appeal to working-class homes who purchase his manuals and stream his content because they believe his word. If Sean Diddy Combs' trial confirms that Steve's family man brand was a mask for a panderous lifestyle, the litigation will be historic. Brands are already reportedly fleeing the Harvey name. The family feud environment is said to be toxic, with Steve reportedly becoming hyper-paranoid about leaks from his staff. And while Steve attempts to maintain dominance, his former spouse Mary Shackelford persists in posting her reality online. For years, the world ignored Mary as a bitter woman. But in 2026, her statements are being studied like a blueprint. She warned that Steve was a man living a double life. She warned that he would exploit anyone, even his own blood, to stay relevant. With Sean Diddy Combs in a cell, Mary's claims are no longer just angry rants. They are supporting evidence of a profile that matches the Sean Diddy Combs syndicate flawlessly. Meanwhile, Lori Harvey is trapped in a frantic loop of obsession. Per insiders, she has grasped that her socialite status is expiring as the Sean Diddy Combs link becomes more lethal. In Hollywood, you are only as valuable as your last link. And hers is currently chained to a man facing racketeering and human trafficking counts. Her push to pull Michael B. Jordan back into her world is not an act of affection. It is an act of preservation. She requires Michael's untainted brand to scrub away the Sean Diddy Combs stench. But Michael B. Jordan is calculating the endgame. He understands that re-entering the Harvey world would mean inheriting their crimes and their debts. He witnessed the syndicate in 2022. He witnessed the barter of favors, and he witnessed the way Marjorie and Sean Diddy Combs operated. He picked the exit then, and he is picking the distance now. The irony of his quiet is that it narrates the entire epic without him having to utter a syllable. Every time he is photographed without them, every time he deletes a desperate text from Lori, he is shouting that the world he escaped is one he never intends to visit again. The legal outlook for Sean Diddy Combs is horrific. He is currently rotting at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a tomb famous for its brutal environment. He is a man accustomed to the best silks and the costliest wines, now facing an eternity in a cage. History proves that when titans are trapped, they start trading names to save their skin. If Sean Diddy Combs believes that outing Steve Harvey's participation in his private galas will purchase him a shorter sentence, or even just an advantage, he will act. Sean Diddy Combs has no affection for Steve. Their bond was a trade, and in a federal probe, trades are traced back to the beginning. The 69-year-old presenter is standing on a floor of salt, and the storm is arriving fast. The marriage to Marjorie is reportedly at the brink because they can no longer decide on how to survive the coming collapse. Marjorie allegedly wants to escape to Europe to dodge the paparazzi, while Steve wants to stay and save his brand. But how do you save a brand that was founded on a deception? As we near the end of 2026, the industry is bracing for the great outing. It is not just about the Harveys and Sean Diddy Combs. It is about the entire culture of secrecy for success that has ruled Hollywood for ages. Michael B. Jordan is the protagonist of this epic. Not just because he is a titan of acting, but because he refused to be a quiet accomplice who cashed in on the filth. He picked the steeper path, the solitary path, and it led him to an Oscar. The Harveys picked the shortcut, the path of bartering and access, and it is leading them to total cultural deletion. The family feud is finished. The victor is the man who left the room. The losers are the ones who stayed in the syndicate, believing they were too colossal to fall. Lori Harvey's denial of courting Sean Diddy Combs in the past has been totally vaporized by the photographic records from 2019. And that deception is why the public believes the rest of the claims. If she deceived about the romance, why would she not deceive about the encounter? If Steve Harvey deceived about his ethics, why would he not deceive about his link to Sean Diddy Combs' underworld? The fractures are no longer just fractures. They are canyons. And as the public watches the Harvey house of cards disintegrate, we are reminded of the tip Steve reportedly gave Lori. You are the reward. The irony remains that Michael B. Jordan was the genuine reward. And by attempting to utilize him as a mask for their Sean Diddy Combs pact, the Harveys destroyed the only thing that could have truly preserved their dynasty. Now the final riddle persists. What happens when the music terminates? Sean Diddy Combs' trial will be the most streamed event of 2027. Michael B. Jordan will persist in his ascent, leaving the Harveys in his dust. Steve Harvey will likely vanish in shame. His manuals stripped from stores and his programs terminated by corporations petrified of the fire. And Lori will be recorded as the woman who held the world and bartered it for closeness to a predator. This is the complete saga. This is the syndicate unmasked. This is the finale of an era of lies. When Michael B. Jordan stood on that stage with his trophy, he was not just honoring a film. He was honoring his escape from the Harvey Diddy cage. The quiet was his blade. But the truth is his crown. Do not claim we did not alert you. The family man was always a script, and the it girl was always a pawn. As the federal litigation nears its peak, remember that in Hollywood, the only thing more lethal than a man with a secret is a man who no longer has to hide it. Michael B. Jordan is that man, and the world is finally listening to what his silence has been saying all along. If you found this forensic breakdown terrifying, you are not alone. The business is in a state of paralysis. Steve Harvey is in a state of hysteria, and we are just warming up. This saga is the manual for how status is traded, how kin is used, and how one man's honor can topple a whole dynasty of deceptions. Stay locked on the news. Stay locked on the witness list. And most importantly, stay locked on Michael B. Jordan. The greatest performer of our time is about to deliver his most vital act yet. The act of a man who finally speaks the truth. Stick around, because the 2027 litigation is just around the bend. And the Harveys are running out of shadows. Like, engage and subscribe to stay updated on the collapse of the Harveys. The family feud is about to become very, very real. What do you think Steve's first defense will be when the marshals arrive? Do you think Lori can ever scrub her brand after this? And most importantly, should Michael finally drop the bomb on a late-night show? Sound off in the comments below. We are tracking this, and so is the rest of the world. The fuse is gone and the blast is here. This is the finale of the Harvey delusion. Good night, Hollywood. And good luck to anyone still hiding evidence in Sean Diddy Combs' vault. The veil has finally been lifted. And what we are viewing is the wreckage of a Hollywood house that picked status over principles. Michael B. Jordan did not just win an Oscar. He won his soul back from a system that tried to eat him. But this is where you, the viewers, enter the frame. We are at a transition point in pop culture where the reality can no longer be buried by expensive lawyers or scary legal threats. We need your voice, because your attention is the only thing that holds these giants accountable. Is Steve Harvey's family man brand officially extinct? Or do you think he can fast-talk his way out of this Diddy-sized hole one final time? Does Lori Harvey deserve a redemption arc? Or has she permanently welded her name to the dark side of the business? And regarding Michael B. Jordan, should he finally deliver a tell-all and burn the whole syndicate down? Or is his quiet the ultimate power move? This saga is traveling faster than the feds in Brooklyn. And we are dedicated to delivering every leaked file, every secret source, and every crack in the Harvey palace as it occurs. If you believe that honor matters more than access, then you belong in this community. Do not let this controversy be buried like so many before it. Hammer that like button right now to show the world we are observing. Crush the subscribe button and activate every notification, because the 2027 trial is going to drop names that will make your vision blur, and you do not want to be the last to find out. Leave a comment below with the word truth if you support Michael B. Jordan. We are analyzing every single thought, and your perspective might just be the center of our next investigation. The family feud has traveled from the game show to the federal building, and the chips have never been higher. Stay alert. Stay doubtful, and keep hunting for the truth behind the filter. We will catch you in the next one.